All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we were talking about things from before, variables, coefficients, constants, why is it important, that type of stuff. So now just looking at what we're getting ready to do. So let n be the number of notebooks. How are 4n and 4n equals 48 different? How are they the same? So their one glaring difference, right, is the fact that we have the equal sign. And so 4n is an expression where 4n equals 48 is an equation. So that's a big difference. Now, how are they the same? Well, they both have the 4n, right? The 4n represents $4 per notebook in both, because that's the same for both. All right, if you have more, go ahead and add more. But that is the gist. The other difference is 4n is for any number of notebooks, whereas 4n equals 48 says that we bought notebooks at $4 a piece and we spent a total of $48. How many notebooks did we buy? So it's in how we're looking at it. All right, question 5. The equation 10 times the quantity 0.5p plus 4n equals 60 represents the value of items in the swag bags that a teacher put together as prizes for their homeroom. What does the factor of 10 represent in the situation? So, I mean, this is the cost of her swag bags, right? Because this is 50 cents per pencil and $4 per notebook. This 10 is going to represent the number of swag bags made. So she made 10 swag bags, and that's what was in each of them. All right, what does the expression 0.5p plus 4n represent in this situation? And how is the expression used as a factor? So the 0.5p plus 4n represents the total value of items in the bag. So that's what it represents. Second question, how is this expression used as a factor? And it's used as a factor because it's being multiplied by the 10. We multiply factors. So it is a factor because, it is a factor, let's get that in there, because it is being multiplied with the 10. And I don't know if I've ever said this, but at any time, write it in words that make sense to you. As long as it means the same thing, it is good. Okay? You don't have to use my bad grammar, or definitely if I spell something wrong, don't rewrite that out. Okay? All right. Finishing up. You can understand a real-world situation by thinking about the quantities, all of the known and unknown amounts, and any limitations on these quantities. Limitations on quantities are called constraints. To me, that would be something, of course, I don't have a highlighter on me. I would highlight. That is a definition right there, right? We've talked about some definitions, but that is definitely a definition right there. Limitations on quantities are called constraints. That would be something that will probably be helpful later on. Okay. Question 6. Some quantities represented in the equation 10 times the quantity 0.5p plus 4n equals 60 are the value of a pencil and the number of pencils, and the value of pencils in one bag. Explain how the equation represents each of these quantities. So, we know that the value of a pencil is 50 cents, right? The coefficient the value of a pencil is 0.5, which is the coefficient. Of 0.5p. The number of pencils is represented by the variable. P. The value of the pencils in one bag is represented by the term. Value of pencils in one bag is represented by that whole thing, 0.5p. The product of the value of a pencil and the number of pencils, that's what that represents. Okay. Number 7. Constraints are sometimes necessary so solutions make sense in a real-world situation. Some constraints can be represented as equations. What does equal 60? And problem 5 tell you about the constraints on this situation. Well, that tells me that I know the total, right? The total value of the swag bags is $60. That's what that tells me. And then we could put all in there of all the swag bags, I guess. That goes over here. Of all the swag bags is $60. That's what that represents. All right. Number 8. Some constraints can be represented as inequalities. So that's our less than and our greater than. What constraints do you think there might be on a number of t-shirts and one swag bag? Write an inequality to show your constraints and explain your choice. So, the number of t-shirts must be greater than or equal to 0, right? So, number of t-shirts must be greater than or equal to 0. So if I want to write that, I'm going to make t greater than or equal to 0. Now why? Why would it be greater than or equal to 0? Well, because we can't have negative t-shirts. You either have it or you don't have it. Negative t-shirts don't exist. Not 7 shirts, t-shirts. So, constraints are, like, we've got the quantities, we've got limitations, right? So we're only going up to $60. And then I know my t-shirts, if I'm going to have one in there, it's going to be there. It'll either be a whole number or 0. Now, this next page, 9 and 10, this is on you to make sure that you have filled out. We've talked about some of these in this video. By all means, use what we talked about. Put it in your own words, right? And then I would like for you to go ahead and reflect and answer the key idea, the expression 5 times 3y plus 6 times 2 represents the value in dollars of more swag bags made by the office staff. Think about the variable, coefficients, terms, and factors of the expression. What do they each tell you about the swag bags? So that's quite a bit of information that you're going to go through and make sure you have answers for. And then your homework, this is in the book, but I figured after doing book stuff with the other 8th grade classes, these green pages will be printed for you so that we can easily do them outside of the classroom. So because especially your guys is much bigger than what we're used to. Have a wonderful evening or day whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in class.